Hey, hope you're having a great day. So I read 16 books in the month of August, and let's go over them. I found a top tier God read trilogy that I don't think enough people talk about. Like I've heard it a little bit here and there on Book Talk, BookTube, Bookstagram, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like I haven't heard enough about it. And it's like, it was very, like, again, God tier. So we'll get into that in a minute. But first off, we have The Spell Shop. So this is a very popular book top book. It had taken me a while to get into it. And I was just like, do I really want to read this? I will say I started it a few months ago. And it was like 5 pages and I just couldn't do it. Something about it, I was like, and I just don't think it was the right time. And I think with it being August, it's like almost fall, and so this honestly was the perfect vibe. So I went back into it, and it was actually such a sweet storyline. So in the main character is a librarian, and pretty much the kingdom is in chaos. There's civil war going on, and she is in like the big city, like think of Library of Alexandria, right? And so she is kind of like a protector, and she knows the civil war is here in the city, and it's kind of the ransacking, taking over the capital and things like that. So she takes it upon herself to try and save some of the books, and she has been selective. She's known this is coming, and then they finally just end up burning the entire library down. And she now has all of these books in her possession. And she's like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And this kingdom is like full of little mini islands and like some bigger continents, but it's not like a huge continent, if that makes any sense at all. So she decides she's just going to go back home where she was originally born, in the small outlying island, like out in the middle of nowhere, because she literally has nowhere else to go. But technically it's still in her name, since that's where her parents would have left it. So she goes out there. She does have a talking plant as her assistant and best friend, and I think that twist was also very interesting. I thought it'd be a little weird. I think he's a spider plant. I'm not exactly sure what type of plant he is. I don't understand how he talks, but he was somehow magically imbued, and he's really cool. He's a really funny character. Anyway, so they end up going to this island, and remember, she's got all of these books. Say hi, Kay. So she's got all of these books that she's not supposed to have. Like, nobody is supposed to have any of these books, okay? And it's super illegal to perform magic, especially untrained. But she goes back home, finds out this island is in need of so much help, right? So she goes back home to this island and finds out that every few years they're supposed to send some type of magicians or wizards to the island to help with all the raging storms, to help the island be plentiful. And the island is no longer plentiful. They haven't been seen from the capital in years. And so the magic is failing. Everything is really crumbling around. The town is not doing well. And so she takes it upon herself that she's going to help the town in this island. And again, she has no experience. She literally has no idea what she's doing, but she's a bookish person. So she's like, oh, well, I can read and I can perform these things. And again, this is super illegal. And so she's kind of under the radar because she was not supposed to take these books from the library. And it ends up just being this really cute story. There's not a whole lot of high stakes. The plot line is, I wouldn't say simple, but it's enough to kind of build on, and it's super, super fun. And it's super sweet and endearing. It does have a little bit of a romance twist to it, but that's not smutty at all. And it's just a super, super cute book. And it's just the perfect August, September read, because it's not quite fall, but it gets you into the mood for August, autumn reading. You know what I mean? But highly suggest. I really enjoyed this book. Okay, you can judge me if you want, but I had to read this book, Morning Glory Milking Farm. I had to read it. I had to know, for science reasons, how this worked and why was it so popular, okay? And usually, I'm not always one to read the most popular books either, but I had to know. I had to know. And let me tell you, this book surprised me 100%. I actually really enjoyed this book, full-heartedly enjoyed it. So it follows the main character. She is just graduated from college. She's struggling to find a job that will pay the bills and within something that is what she went to school for, right? And so she ends up finding this milking job on this farm. And let's just say they're not milking milk, okay? I don't want to ruin it because I felt like it was a huge surprise to me, but not milking milk here, okay? And so she ends up getting this job, and it has great health benefits. And she was really on the edge of either I take this job or I move back home to my parents' garage. She was kind of I don't want to do that. And in this world, they know there's magical beings. They know there's minotaurs and witches and fae and things like that. And this is set in a small town where it's just like all of the supernatural kind of all in one town, and she's really enjoying this, and especially as a human. She's like one of the only workers there that is human on this like milking farm, and it's super interesting. And she ends up falling in love with one of the minotaurs, and it's actually a super sweet storyline. It is definitely heavily based in romance. It's quite smutty, I would say. It's not like dark romance smutty, but it is quite smutty. But above all, the love story is what I think really transcends this, and it's a really short, quick read. But I really enjoyed every second of reading this book. Some of it was quite shocking, especially in the beginning of like finding out everything. But it was actually such a beautiful read, and it was quick. It was lighthearted. There's nothing really bad happened, and it was fun. Like, it was a really fun, lighthearted read, and I would highly, highly suggest it. If you're looking for something light, fun, a good palate cleanser, but still smutty if you're into that stuff. Lover Unbound by J.R. Ward. So this is I believe, number 6 in the series. So this is the Black Dagger Brotherhood. So each book so far has been it's all set in the same world, but it's about different characters, but it is overlapping. So it's not necessarily interconnected standalones, if that makes sense. Like, it's same world, and you still need to go along with the series, but it's a different couple each time. Anyway, I digress. So this is about vampires, and the Black Dagger Brotherhood, they are like this long-standing vampire like warriors, and they pretty much control all of the vampire world and protect them. And so this one specifically was about Vicious. And he is kind of like the Oracle, and he can, of course, they can all fight, but he has like different powers, but he's kind of lost them. And so this one, it's really about him finding himself and figuring out who he wants to be in the world, and then he ends up finding the love of his life and his mate, and it's quite an interesting storyline. Like, this series I think it was started like in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, so you can definitely tell like some of the like vibes are like a little funny, because just like it's not necessarily modern day, but it like, even though it was only like 20 years ago, you could tell it was kind of 20 years ago, but like not in a bad way. It's just kind of funny, like the heavy rap and things like that. It's just the little innuendos, I guess you could say. But it's actually a really interesting storyline, and it's really fun. This is my favorite book of the series so far, number 6. I really enjoy this series. It's not so overwhelming that like you need to read each book every time, but it's such a good series. Like, it keeps you hooked. Like, I can't wait until I read to the next book. I think there's 24 books in the series, something like that, but it's good. I enjoyed it. I highly suggest reading it. If you love vampires, if you love Twilight, things like that, like, this is like the adult version of Twilight, but better, if that makes any sense at all. Okay. This is the God tier read, okay? If you have not read this trilogy, okay, I need you to put everything, if you take anything out of this video, this is the book series that you need to put on your TBR. So this is the 3rd book in the ending of the trilogy, Mother of Dawn and Death, The War of Lost Worlds. Let me tell you, like, this series is so good. Like, I don't feel like I've heard enough people talk about it. Like, I really don't. So it follows, okay, I'm going to butcher her name, Tisaya. That's the main character, okay? She is a slave. She ends up earning her freedom, and she is going to kind of like it's called the Order of the Conclave, something of that. And they're of these magical beings, because she has some magic in her system, and she's able to use it, but like it's more flamboyant, because obviously she's a slave, she's a performer, things like that. So she leaves her home country to go to this Order of the Conclave, whatever you want to call it. And she's kind of end up into this throne of politics, right? Like, she is like, there's a language barrier, and she just wants to learn. And again, she's older than apprentice age. Apprentice age is around like 12, and she's like 18 to 21, I believe. And she ends up getting thrown into this huge war. There's so much going on. They end up coming into the realm, and like, it truly becomes such a huge world building plot, and like the fantasy element, like there's a small romance subplot, but really especially the wars going, it's so, like, Carissa Broadbent like really knows how to build a world. And this, like, especially into the 2nd book, like, there are certain things where I'm like, oh, man, I don't know if I can continue reading this. Like, it's getting bored, and I'm like, things aren't connected, but then all of a sudden, all of the dots connected, and you're like, oh, like, I'm no joke. Like, I would not shut up about this series, and I will not shut up about this series. Like, I kept talking to my mom about it. Every time I talked to her, I would update her. I'm like, oh, let me tell you about what happened in this book. And I was trying not to ruin it, because I wanted her to start reading this series. And it's so, like, if anything of this video, put this on your TBR. start it. It's just a trilogy. It's a quick series. So good. Badass female character. Like, ugh, mwah, chef's kiss. Read it. Blue River Romance. So I'm not going to say I hated this book, but this is Rourke's point of view from Morning Glory Monkey Farm. So the guy in the Minotaur. It's just literally just a retelling of A Morning Glory Monkey Farm. I didn't dislike it, but I think it's since I had just read Morning Glory Monkey Farm, like I felt like I was just rereading it and I was kind of like, why? Not that I don't hate the male's perspective, but I didn't necessarily care for it because, I mean, I literally had just read it beforehand. I don't know. I mean, it was a good book. If you were interested in reading his point of view, I think absolutely go for it. But it's literally just the same thing, just his point of view. It did bring in a little bit more elements, especially in the beginning when they're like first meeting and like how the world kind of works. But other than that, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like, wow, you know? 2 for Tea. So this is another in the series of Morning Glory Milking Farm. And I had to know, like, again, science reasons, I needed to know, like, what was happening. So she is a witch. And the other main character is kind of like some type of celestial being or like wraith-like and like Dementor. Like the only way I describe it is like a wraith and Dementor had a baby and like they can exist in this world, but they're not supposed to. They're kind of like they're like of the in-between worlds. Okay. And so again, like it's not a he or she. It's like, I don't know, like it's just a being. There's nothing else to it, but it can form to whatever presence it wants to when it holds a solid form. So main character, the witch, she has just lost her father and her mom had moved her out to the city that they're in, you know, where all the like supernatural beings are. And she's just trying to find her way. She's really like, she's stricken with grief. She's trying to find her way through the world, and especially going through the witch society and the coven seems to be, there's a lot going on there. And she ends up going to this tea shop, which like the wraith dementor thing is what runs it. It's like a tiki like vibes, weird, like they've got like random artifacts and things like that. They're like super spooky and creepy. And they end up, I don't know if I would necessarily call it love, but they end up starting a relationship. And it's kind of a weird concept, and like the only thing that I really disliked about the book, because the witch part of the story and like her part of the coven was super interesting, but like all of a sudden it's just like I was reading it and like they're starting to have a relationship, and all of a sudden it's like the book ended in like the worst way possible and like so open-ended. You're like, what? Like it wasn't like a progression and then like climax and end. It was just like progression, end book. Like there was no like way to know it was an end on a book. Like you wouldn't have thought it was going to end in a cliffhanger. And I don't know. There's just something about this book that just not necessarily unsettled me, but I was like, why did you cut it off? Like it was finally starting to get good, and you just like ended it for like no reason. If that makes any sense at all. Not a terrible book, not the greatest book I've ever read, but it was okay. Okay, Ballroom Rising. Okay, on with the Minotaur theme. I know, on with the Minotaur theme. But I needed to know. I have seen this book a ton, especially in Target. Like, it's very bright, it's pink, it's pretty, and I wanted to know. And I think it was something I needed to know about, and I felt it was a standalone fantasy. I'm like, why not? And this actually turned out to be a fantastic read. I would honestly give this almost a 5-star rating. It was fun, and I loved the fantasy world. So Ruby Dixon, the author, she also wrote Ice Planet Barbarians, which I actually really enjoyed. Like, those are so like oddball and fun, and this is of the same way, but fantasy. And I think this was better written, I think, than Ice Planet Barbarians. Again, still love like Ice Planet Barbarians, but I think this is much better written. So main character, she's pretty much like a wealthy lord's daughter, and she is the heir, but she's the heir to nothing because they absolutely have no money, no artifacts. And in this world, there used to be magic like 400 or 500 years ago. Something happened. Magic is now outlawed. Nobody has magic, but left behind are all these old artifacts. And there's a bunch of magic imbued within most of these artifacts. So one of the big cities they do is they go down and they tunnel, and they're pretty much all archaeologists, right? And they're trying to dig for all of these extra artifacts, and it's like a really big thing. It's like they're all part of the Royal Artifactual Guild is what it's called. And so in order to save her family, she takes herself and then one of her ladies maids, and she goes down there and she's like, I'm going to become part of the guild and I'm going to pass. And the thing is though, women aren't really like well represented. It's a very misogynistic world, like, oh, women can't do this kind of thing. And again, she grew up in a life of luxury. She didn't really have to work hard, but she's very bookish. She can read all of the old language and things like that. And this is actually a really fun read. And then the Minotaurs come into play because they are definitely looked down upon in the world, but they are the backbone of the guild because, of course, they have all these heightened senses, being, you know, this other type of being and things like that. And then so she ends up getting on a team, training to become a guild member, and she ends up falling in love with the main character. And it's a really fun, like, the world building, the fantasy world is so astonishing. There is a second book in the series now. I just got done reading it. But I really enjoyed this. Like, the romance was a subplot, but it's kind of like a convenience relationship. But it was so good. Like, it was a twist, it was quick, and it was just fun. And I really enjoyed, like, the fantasy element and the world building. It was really, really enjoyable. Highly suggest read. And I really enjoyed it. Like, highly, highly suggest. Okay. Trial of the Sun Queen. So I read the series. I ended up DNFing at the 4th book. I don't know that I disliked the series, but I wouldn't say I hated this series. Like, is it the best thing I've ever read in the world? No. But is it, like, the greatest thing I've ever read in the world? No. Okay, so it starts out, and the main character, is a prisoner, and she's been locked up for years and years and years due to there were a king and things like that. She ends up getting pulled, and like the show The Bachelor, she's pretty much get pulled out. And she's sent to the Sun Kingdom, where she is to fight with all these other women and compete for the Sun King's hand, okay? And that portion was okay, but then things start to reveal themselves, and they start to figure out, like, you start to question, well, who is she? Like, why do they care? Why was she pulled from the Aurora Kingdom to the Sun Kingdom when they're, like, huge rivals? Like little things start to pile up, and it does start to become interesting. But I end up DNFing the 4th book. I think it's just because I was so upset with the way the 3rd book ended. Like, it was like climax, and all of a sudden, like, one of the main characters dies, and I was just like, it was very confounding, I guess. And I honestly, I think that's what carried me into book 4, and I got like maybe 25% in, and I was just like, I couldn't do it. There was something about it. I was just like, I don't like the way it was written. I don't know why it was like this, and I don't think this is a bad series. Just something about this series was just like, why? I don't know. Like, it was okay. It wasn't great, but meh. Asking for Trouble by Tessa Bailey. Now, this was a fun palate cleanser for me. This is the A Line of Duty novel. I don't remember which is in the series. I'll put it up on there. I really enjoy this series. Like, it's fun, quick romances. They're all cops, and then they're all just kind of finding true love. And it's a really fun storyline. This one was about a police officer, and then it was like a friend of one of the others in the series, and she's like comes from like the rich Manhattan royalty kind of thing. So she's got lots of money, and they're like kind of rivals, and they're always bickering at each other with friend events and things like that. But then they're just like, let's just pretty much get together this one night and then be done with it. Because, like, what is this tension? Like, what's going on? Like, you don't know me, and like what I go through in my life, right? And so that happens, but then all of a sudden he's just like, no, I can't let her go. And so it's just like a quick read of like romance. There's a little bit of smut in it, nothing too heavy, but it's a cute romance. It's funny, it's lighthearted, and it's a good, really good palate cleanser. Highly, highly suggest. The Gargoyle Gets His Girl. So this is of a series, and they're all like interconnected standalones. I believe these are all indie published. Anyway, they're all in Kindle Unlimited. I really like this series. So this is set into a town where they celebrate pretty much Halloween 365 days a year, right? And so what happens is a bunch of supernatural live here, and like the world does not know supernatural are real, okay? And so they all kind of live there, and that way they don't have to hide themselves. And so this is like a really fun, this is like the 4th or 5th in the series. All interconnected. I don't think you necessarily have to read the first few in order to read these, but I really enjoyed this one. Anyway, so this is about a fae, and she has magical abilities. Somehow earth-related. She does jewelry and things like that, and she ran away from home when she was very young. Fast forward to today, and now she's a jeweler in this town. She really loves it there. But since she ran away, her past kind of comes back to haunt her. And the other main character, he has just moved here. He's prior military, and now he is a gargoyle. Now, the fae and gargoyles have kind of been at each other's throats, and gargoyles were always like servants or slaves to fae. But since she ran away so young, she doesn't know this, but like he knows this. Of course, it's kind of built into his society and his mind frame and him growing up. And so it's a big deal when they end up starting to get together because she doesn't know what's happening. things happen, and then she ends up getting taken back to like the Fae court, and they're like there to like duke it out with the sister and things like, and like there's so many things that happen this week, and it's so fun. Like this romance is like, I wouldn't say it's like a subplot, but it's like not the main plot, if that makes sense at all. But it's actually a really fun story. Again, it's a quick read, it's a good palate cleanser, and it's just something to get you in the like autumn fall mood. And again, it's quick, it's fun, and I really, really enjoyed this series. And it's just a fun read. It's a fun, quick read. It's nothing too heavy on you, and it's just fun. The Prison Healer series. Oh, such a good series. So I will say, the first book, I was kind of like, I don't know. It was like a 3.5, maybe. It was almost 4-star because the ending was pretty good. And I was like, I don't know if I want to continue the series, but I'm like, you know what? Let me just try it. And it ended up being a really good series. I wouldn't say it's like God tier 5-star reads, but they were really good. I gave the other 2 books about 4.5 stars. And I really, really enjoyed the series. So series follows along. It starts off in a prison. She's been in prison since she was like 12 or 13. She's like 18-ish now. And her father was a healer, so she has all these magical, or not magical abilities, but healing abilities that she's able to take care of the person. So that's pretty much been her job for like the last several years. Okay. And so the kingdom is kind of always in upheaval. They say like there is 2 splits to the kingdom, from which it started. Like there's, of course, the 2 families. One was like of elemental magic, the other of healing magic. And then they fought. And then all of a sudden now, currently the elemental magic holds this. And they're supposed to have killed off all of the people of this healing magical ability that they have, because now they shouldn't have a claim to the throne. So all of a sudden, all of these rebels have now come in, and they have caught like the queen of the rebels, who is supposedly potentially could be like a threat to the kingdom and to the throne. Okay. And so it's her job as the prison healer to keep this woman alive to go through these trials. And it's kind of hard to do because she's like on death's bed. Like she doesn't know what's wrong with her. She doesn't have like all the things that she needs to treat her, and she doesn't know how to treat her. She doesn't really know what's wrong with her. So she takes it upon herself to go through all of these trials and tribulations for her. So in order to do that, they're like all trials of like one trial by fire, one trial by air, water. You get the gist, right? And if she passes all of those, that means she won, and like that she's innocent. And of course, nobody's ever made it through all of these trials, especially for the first trial alone. And going through the book, she goes through all these trials. And again, she's just this regular kind of human being, like trying to get through this. And like the twist at the end of the first book, I think is what really hooked me, because you're just like, you knew something might be going on, but then like the revelation, like I wouldn't have put those pieces together on my own. And it's just, this series is really, really good. Like I will say, the first book is a little harder to get through. Like I don't necessarily like prison reading stories and things like that, but this one actually, like, it's not too terrible to read through and get through it. I think it does help the character building as you get into books 2 and 3, and it's really good. It is a YA, and it's just the almost steamy, like touch me, don't touch me love. Like it's really, really fun, and I really enjoyed the series, so I would highly suggest it as well. But that's it. I hope you had a great time hanging around. I hope you left with a few good book recommendations, and I will see you guys in the next one.